Would you consider yourself someone who's just waiting for the right time? You know, the right time to start that project, to end that relationship, to move to that city you've dreamed about, or even to simply live the way you secretly want to. You tell yourself, I'll do it when I'm ready, or when the timing is perfect. And so you wait. Days pass, months pass, years pass. And then one day, you look back and realize the right time never actually arrived. Because it doesn't exist, it was never meant to. Life doesn't work like that. We humans are masterful at convincing ourselves that the present moment is somehow inadequate for action. We believe we need more certainty, more preparation, more signs from the universe that it's safe to proceed. And in doing so, we miss the only moment that ever truly exists, this one. I want to tell you something you might not like. You will never feel completely ready for anything worth doing. Readiness is not a place you arrive at. It is something that arises because you start. Waiting for the right conditions is like waiting for the ocean to stop moving before you swim. You will wait forever. Think about it. Every major decision in your life, the one that changed everything, probably came with uncertainty, maybe even fear. But you acted anyway. And if you hadn't, you wouldn't be where you are now. This so-called right time we cling to is a mirage. The mind paints it as a safe, golden moment in the future when all obstacles disappear, when courage is effortless, and when success is guaranteed. But the truth is, life is never without risk. Every moment is tinged with unknowns, with imperfect circumstances, with distractions and doubts. That is the human condition. And yet, action has always belonged to those willing to begin despite it. We postpone life in countless ways. I'll travel when I have more money. I'll say how I feel when the moment is perfect. I'll start creating when I've mastered every skill. But in reality, these are excuses dressed as logic. The longer we wait, the heavier the weight becomes. Opportunities fade. Enthusiasm cools. The door we swore we'd walk through one day quietly closes, and we're left wondering why we didn't take a step when it was open. Alan Watts once said, "This is the real secret of life, to be completely engaged with what you are doing in the here and now. The right time is simply the time you choose to begin." And here's something else. The right time is often a disguise for fear, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of discomfort. We tell ourselves we're being patient or strategic, but more often than not, we're avoiding the raw vulnerability of action. But here's the paradox. The fear doesn't go away by waiting. It fades only through moving forward. You've probably noticed this. The conversation you dreaded, the leap you feared once you did it, it was never as monstrous as your mind imagined. You realized that the hardest part was simply beginning. Life rewards momentum, not hesitation. Now, imagine your life as a book. If you keep waiting for the right time to start the next chapter, the story never moves. The plot stagnates. And while you wait, the pages keep turning anyway, filled with scenes you didn't choose, written by circumstances rather than by you. At some point, you must accept that the only right time is the one you claim. The longer you hesitate, the more you hand over authorship of your life to chance. And chance doesn't care about your dreams, it simply fills the void you leave. The universe, in all its vast mystery, doesn't send engraved invitations. It sends whispers. It nudges. It places opportunities in front of you, disguised as challenges, detours, or imperfect conditions. And if you're too busy waiting for a perfect sign, you'll miss them. People imagine that the universe is withholding their destiny until they've earned it. But in reality, the universe is always offering, always flowing. It's our hesitation, our clinging to the fantasy of later, that keeps us from receiving it. Here's something radical. You don't need more time to start. You need less waiting. The conditions you think you need are often revealed after you begin, not before. You learn by doing, not by endlessly preparing. The courage you believe you lack appears the moment you step forward. The skills you think you need to master are sharpened in the act itself. Action is the alchemy that transforms fear into clarity, uncertainty into direction. Without it, you remain in the purgatory of someday, a place where nothing grows except regret. Think of all the people who told themselves they'd start when they were ready, only to watch someone with less experience, less certainty, and fewer resources leap ahead simply because they acted. The difference between them isn't talent or luck. It's the willingness to begin in the midst of imperfection. And here's the thing. Life doesn't favor the one who waits. It favors the one who shows up, even if they stumble, even if they fail. Because failure, at least, moves you forward. Waiting keeps you still. The problem with waiting for the right time is that it tricks you into believing you have infinite tomorrows. But you don't. Life is not a rehearsal for something better later. This is the show. The clock is ticking whether you participate or not. And one day, the one day you were waiting for will simply be gone. You'll realize that the perfect conditions you imagined were never coming, and that the years you thought you were preparing were actually the years you were living. There's a kind of heartbreak in that, but also a kind of awakening. Because once you see that the right time is a myth, you're free. Free from the illusion that your life begins later. Free from the idea that you need permission to start. And in that freedom, you begin to act. You start the book without knowing the ending. You take the trip without a perfect plan. You say the words without rehearsing them 1,000 times in your head. And yes, you might stumble. Yes, you might fail. But even then, you'll be really living instead of waiting. The moment you choose to act, the waiting ends. I want you to think of a river. If you stand on the bank forever, waiting for the water to calm before you step in, you'll be there for eternity. The river doesn't stop moving. It doesn't care about your readiness. It only offers you the choice. Step in now or watch it pass. Life is no different. The current will keep flowing. People will come and go. Opportunities will appear and vanish. And the only thing you can truly lose is the chance you never take. The river doesn't wait for you. So why do you wait for it? It's worth asking yourself honestly, what exactly are you waiting for? More money? More confidence? A sign from the universe? Those might seem like legitimate reasons, but often they're disguises for fear. You think you're waiting for resources, but you're really waiting for certainty. And certainty is something life almost never gives. In fact, certainty tends to show up after you leap, not before. You've experienced this. The courage comes in the doing, not in the waiting. Yet still, we cling to the fantasy that one morning we'll wake up feeling completely fearless, ready to conquer the day. It's a lie. The truth is, readiness is created through action. You become ready because you began, not the other way around. The person who learns to swim doesn't wait until they're a perfect swimmer to enter the water they get in. They splash, they choke a little, and they learn. Life works exactly the same way. The path to confidence, clarity, and even mastery starts with one imperfect step. That step feels uncomfortable because it is supposed to. It's the discomfort that shapes you. And while you wait for the right time, someone else is taking that step and changing their life. Now, there's something dangerous about postponing life that many people overlook. Waiting becomes a habit. The more you delay, the more natural it feels to delay again. Before you know it, you're not just waiting for the right time to do something important, you're waiting for the right time to live. And the tragedy is that time never arrives. Because life will always give you a reason to wait. There will always be bills, responsibilities, uncertainty, and imperfections. If you make waiting your default, you'll reach the end wondering when your life actually happened. The irony is that while you're waiting for the perfect time, life itself is happening. The sunsets you could be watching, the conversations you could be having, the moments you could be creating, they're unfolding right now without you. And they will never repeat in exactly the same way. The people you love will not always be here. The opportunities in front of you will not always be there. This is not meant to scare you, but to wake you up. If you knew you had only a year left, would you still be waiting? Or would you start? The right time doesn't exist for another reason. You are always changing. The version of you that's waiting today will not be the same version that finally decides to act. And sometimes, by the time you feel ready, the thing you wanted has already slipped through your fingers. We forget that desire has a lifespan. Dreams can expire if neglected for too long. What felt urgent and alive at 25 might be nothing but a faded curiosity at 40. The question is, will you answer the call while it's still burning in you, or will you let it die quietly? Here's the strange thing. You'll never regret starting too early as much as you'll regret starting too late. Beginning before you feel ready might give you some awkward mistakes, some wrong turns, but beginning too late robs you of years you can never reclaim. Time has a way of erasing the luxury of hesitation, the projects you never began, the people you never called, the love you never confessed. They don't sit patiently on the shelf waiting for you. They vanish quietly while you're busy making plans. The lesson? You can correct a mistake. You cannot reclaim a moment. Many people confuse waiting for the right time with being strategic. I'm just thinking it through, they say, but often thinking it through is just overthinking it out of existence. You can plan so much that the fire dies before you've even lit the match. Action creates momentum. Planning without action creates only a thicker wall between you and your life. Of course, some planning is necessary, but you must know the tipping point where it shifts from useful to paralyzing. Cross that point, and the dream you had is already starting to fade into nothing more than an idea. I've spoken to countless people who say they want to write, travel, start a business, fall in love, and yet they've been preparing for years. They don't realize that their preparation is simply another name for avoidance. They're waiting for courage to knock on the door, but courage doesn't knock. It's built moment by moment as you step into the thing you fear. The truth is, you cannot think yourself into bravery. You can only act your way into it. And that means taking the first step without knowing exactly where the second one will land. Why do we fear starting before the right time? Because it feels safer to stay in the realm of potential. As long as your dream is in your head, it's perfect. It hasn't been tested, judged, or rejected. The moment you act, reality has a say, and reality is unpredictable. But here's the paradox. Reality is also where all the good things live. Love, joy, connection, discovery, none of these exist in the safety of your imagination. They require you to step into the messy, unpredictable now. Potential is perfect, yes, but it's also lifeless. Only action breathes life into it. There's an ancient Zen saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. It applies to almost everything in life. You can't go back and start earlier. You can only start now imperfectly, messily, vulnerably. And if you truly understand this, you stop torturing yourself with regret over the past. You stop saying, if only I had started sooner. Instead, you say, I'm starting now and that's enough. The only moment you can ever act is the one you're in. So if not now, when? I remember a conversation with a man who said he was waiting until retirement to really live, to travel, to write, to explore. He had it all mapped out, work hard now, enjoy life later. But later never came. A sudden illness took him before his right time arrived. And that's the danger. You are not promised later. Later is an assumption. Now is the only guarantee. The right time you're banking on might never show up. And in the meantime, the life you could be living is passing by like scenery from a train you forgot to board. So, what happens when you stop waiting? Life expands. You start to see possibility everywhere because you're no longer filtering it through, is this the perfect time? Instead, you're asking, is this worth doing now? And more often than not, the answer is yes. You begin to realize that starting is the thing that makes time right, not the other way around. You also discover that most fears dissolve once you're in motion. The phone call you dreaded, the trip you kept postponing, the conversation you were avoiding once you're in them, they're never as terrifying as they seemed in your head. Let me be clear. I'm not saying you should be reckless. I'm saying that waiting for perfection is far riskier than acting in imperfection. Life rewards movement. It rewards those who show up, even with shaking hands and uncertain steps. The opportunities that change everything often appear when you're already in motion, not when you're sitting on the sidelines. And here's the beauty. Once you start, the so-called right time has a way of appearing in hindsight. You look back and think, that was exactly when I needed to begin, even if, at the time, it felt far too early. The truth is, there is no finish line where you suddenly feel ready for life. Readiness is not a destination, it's a habit. It's built every time you choose to act in the face of doubt. Every time you do the thing before you feel qualified. Every time you decide that the cost of waiting is greater than the cost of beginning, and with each of these choices, you discover that life isn't something you prepare for endlessly. It's something you participate in right now. Consider this. Life doesn't wait for you to be ready to throw challenges in your path. The unexpected illness, the sudden job change, the person who walks away, none of these events pause to check your calendar first. They arrive unannounced, and you deal with them in the moment. If life's difficulties don't wait for you to be ready, why should its opportunities? Waiting for the right time assumes the universe will align itself neatly for your plans. But the universe doesn't work that way. It offers openings in the middle of chaos, and your job is to notice and step in. Some of you might be thinking, but what if I fail? And I understand. Failure is embarrassing. It stings. But failure is also a compass. It points you toward the adjustments you need to make. The people who create lives they're proud of aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who stop seeing failure as an ending and start seeing it as feedback. Each attempt, each stumble, each awkward first step is a teacher. And you cannot meet that teacher if you never leave the safety of the classroom of your mind. There's another hidden danger in waiting for the right time. You can accidentally become addicted to waiting itself. It's comforting to think you're almost ready. You get the sense of progress without taking the risks of progress. It's like rocking in a chair. You're moving, but you're going nowhere. And while you wait, the energy you once had fades. Enthusiasm is perishable. Leave it too long, and it spoils into apathy. The window for action is often smaller than we think, not because life closes it, but because we stop feeling the urgency to step through. Think of the great stories you've heard in books, in films, in your own life. Do they begin with the hero saying, "I waited until the right moment"? No. They begin when someone, often unprepared, says yes to the moment in front of them. That yes sets everything in motion. You might believe you need more confidence before you can act, but here's the paradox. Action breeds confidence, not the other way around. The first step gives you proof that you can survive the unknown. The second step builds trust in yourself. And soon you stop asking if you're ready, you just go. Now, here's something practical. If you're someone who waits endlessly, start by shrinking the scale of what you think beginning means. You don't have to write the whole book today, write one paragraph. You don't have to run a marathon, take a 10-minute walk. The right time often hides inside small beginnings. These small starts teach you that perfection is not required for progress. And they're much harder to delay because they feel so doable. Once you start stacking small actions, momentum takes over, and suddenly you've begun without the fanfare you thought you needed. I once knew a woman who dreamed of moving to another country. For years, she said she was waiting until she saved a certain amount, until she learned the language perfectly, until she had a job lined up. The years passed. Her savings grew, her language skills improved, but the perfect moment never came. One day, she admitted the truth. She wasn't waiting for the right time. She was waiting for the fear to disappear. And fear never disappears completely. It only changes shape once you're moving through it. She finally went, not because the fear was gone, but because she realized it never would be. Fear will follow you into every chapter of life worth living. Love, creativity, adventure, they all demand that you feel fear and move anyway. If you wait to act until you feel no fear, you'll be waiting forever. The trick is to stop asking for fearlessness and start asking for willingness. Willingness to look foolish, willingness to learn publicly, willingness to fail in the service of something that matters to you. This shift in focus turns waiting into moving. You stop trying to avoid discomfort and instead see it as a sign you're finally stepping into your life. The irony is that once you start living this way, you begin to see time differently. You no longer see life as a series of safe waiting rooms where you prepare for the real thing. You realize the waiting room was the real thing all along and you were wasting it. Every conversation, every sunrise, every mistake is part of the main event. The so-called right time is now because now is the only time you have. The people who embrace this truth don't necessarily live longer lives, but they live wider ones, filled with moments they seized instead of postponed. Let me leave you with a challenge. Think of one thing you've been postponing because the right time hasn't arrived. It could be calling someone you miss, starting a project you've been daydreaming about, or telling the truth you've been avoiding. Now, instead of asking, "Is this the perfect moment?" ask, "What small step can I take toward this today?" Then do it. Don't wait until Monday. Don't wait for the new year. Don't wait for more money, more approval, more certainty. If you can take one small step now, you have already broken the spell of waiting. You might feel clumsy at first. You might make mistakes. You might even wish you'd waited longer. But as time passes, you'll notice something: those imperfect steps created a life that's real instead of one that's just imagined. And the joy of reality, even with its flaws, is far richer than the sterile perfection of an untested dream. The right time is not a date on the calendar. It's a decision you make to participate fully in your own existence. Every day you choose to do that, you've chosen the perfect moment. So, will you keep waiting? Waiting for fear to vanish? For the plan to be flawless? For the universe to send you a personal invitation? Or will you accept that the invitation is already here, hidden in this moment? The choice is yours. But I will tell you this: years from now, you will remember the day you began, not the day you planned to begin. You will look back and see that the so-called wrong time was exactly when your life truly started, and you will be grateful you didn't wait any longer. I'll end with one last thought. The right time is a mirage. You can chase it forever, thinking it's just over the next hill, only to find it was never real. What's real is now. What's real is the beating of your heart, the breath in your lungs, the chances within reach. If you keep postponing, you will reach the end having never actually arrived. But if you start now, even awkwardly, even without certainty, you will have lived. And in the end, that's the only measure that matters, not how perfectly you timed your life, but how deeply you lived it. So, take the call. Write the sentence, book the ticket, say the words, start the thing. Not because everything is ready, but because you are tired of missing your own life. There is no dress rehearsal. This is it. And the clock is not pausing for you to feel ready. The only time you have is the time you take. So take it, now. And as you step forward, remember, the right time isn't coming. It's here. It's always been here. And the moment you stop waiting for a perfect future and begin living in the imperfect present, you will discover that life was never about timing at all. It was about showing up. And now, at last, you have.